Hey friends, just launching the second episode of the dog school with Chelsea's Toys. And I'm just going to give a moment for Chelsea to join us, and then we'll get started with this second class. Hello. Yep, so just added you in and should be joining any moment. There we go.
Boy, we're getting good at this.
We are. Much more seamless of a transition.
Yeah. So how have you been? How was your week?
Going well. My new favorite question actually is asking people what brought them joy.
Very nice.
So something that brought me joy this week is that we are planning on starting our gym membership and looked into gyms around us. I love walking with Maggie and all, but it's definitely nice to also be able to, get some high intensity exercise in the gym.
Right. It's the season too, right?
I guess so, but it's more just, time to get going with that. Yeah. But how about you? What brought you joy this week?
My joy this week is harvest. We're harvesting our grapes. So all week I've been harvesting grapes and making juice, and we're making jelly this year. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Well, to the people who are joining as well, feel free to drop in what brought you some joy this week, whether it is on your own or something with your dog. And we can dive right into recapping what we talked about last week and then continuing on with our sessions, with our topics for this week. So last week we touched on several things, but the ones that I wanted to highlight are we talked about why play is a really important part of the relationship building with your dog and how play can turn it from being just training into a fun dynamic where your dog chooses to engage with you, and how that choice is a really important part of behavior change. We then also talked about the different styles of training, and so explained how in this set class that we are using fear-free methods like positive reinforcement, rewarding the dog for doing the behaviors that we want, as well as understanding what negative punishment is, which has to do with taking away the thing that the dog wants to stop a behavior you do not want, and how important it is to follow that up with positive reinforcement. And then we also talk about the different kinds of toys that are out there for this combination of play and training techniques to be able to have a good experience with your dog, but misconceptions like, oh, I'm just going to give my dog a snuffle mat and expect them to know how to use it was at the top of the list, what we talked about. So did you receive any feedback from our viewers from week one?
We did. We did. I had some conversations so we have some DMs in the back that are filled with our affiliates. And we had some conversations there, and we know that some of our dogs were getting trained and just starting some little training, and just having that little bit of communication with them, I think is exciting. I think it's very exciting to watch them see how simple it really is. It's just about consistency. So side note there, if any of our viewers are interested in being an affiliate for our brand, you can fill out an application online, and for every successful referral, you get a little bit of a commission right away. It's a nice little program that's put out by Shopify, and it's called Shopify Collab. So you can also DM me and we can discuss it. So I just brought a little picture for you guys to see today. This is Chelsea.
Oh.
So she's my girl. She was the originator, and she was the reason why I made these toys. So as I was talking to some of the affiliates, we came up with a few more questions for you. And I think this is going to kind of kick off our class today. And in our class, we're just going to, probably expand a little bit on what we talked about last week, but with specifics and specifics of maybe suggestions that you can give our viewers to help these problems. And I think we have 3 specific problems that I think are pretty common in any household. So
Okay.
the first one, I hear this all the time at Chelsea's Toys as well, is how can I stop my dog from chewing on my shoes or my carpets? Now, my suggestion is tug toys, because that's how I've done it. I have pretty much used tug toys and our products as consumables because I would rather see my puppy chew on this than my shoes. And then eventually I, teach the dog to just use it as tug. So I think this question can kind of get broken out into puppy versus dog too. So what do you?
Yeah, that's very true. Starting with the puppy mindset, it's important to help your puppy understand the behaviors that you want them to do. And so, I would say actually the first thing is don't make it possible for them to access your carpets and your shoes. And I recognize some people might say, well, that is hard to do, but that's really important to implement management tools. If you have a human baby that is just learning how to crawl and you have some stairs in your home, are you going to just give that baby full reign of the house? I doubt
No.
it. And so similarly, if you have a puppy that tends to go after the carpets, then the first question is, do you have the ability to put your puppy into a playpen? And if they're outside of that playpen, have them be under supervision with you. That means you're not giving the pup full reign of the house. The second thing that you're doing is teaching the puppy what you're okay with it chewing on. So for example, using a tug, which maybe is a little more using a tug that helps them understand how to get, their chewing needs fulfilled is the other part. And so I'm going to pause on a moment to say, if your puppy is chewing on things and it has certain needs, and you want to try to get to the heart of what those needs are. And if those needs are influenced by teething, then you're going to use this tug in a very, very different way. You are not going to be using it for actual tug, because a puppy that is teething has the potential of, tugging and then a tooth getting stuck in the tug, and then you pull and then it becomes a really negative experience. So any kind of toy. So like for this, I might not even use this one specifically. I might use your really long one that we had shown last time. And so that way the puppy can just chew on it. And I really like the felt and the fact that there aren't necessarily particular things that the puppy's teeth would get caught on if they're biting into this. But I would let them just chew. And you could even wet this. I think you had said this before, Lisa, that you can wet this and put it into the freezer and let the puppy just bite on this. And so understanding what is influencing the needs of your puppy, if they're younger, so like sub 6 months, use this as a tool that helps them chomp on something that they're not going to then end up being able to bite through, but that can help numb the pain that's within their mouths. Also be aware that when puppies are going through teething, they are more likely to have a variety of different behavior problems because they're in pain. And so asking them to work for you and such when they are in pain may not be fair. And so setting your own understanding of what to expect in those cases is important. When they get older, over 6 months, then this is something that again helps them because you set that foundation with them that when they need to chew something and get their oral fixation satisfied or numb their teeth or their sore mouths and gums, as they get older, they would learn, okay, I have certain things that I'm allowed to bite on and others I'm not able to bite on. And so you're setting that foundation when they're puppies, that as they get older, and then as it's more about like an energy release and they are just really overwhelmed teenagers who have all these hormone changes that are happening and they're discovering the world and maybe they're afraid of the world, You can help them get energy out with the tug toys, whether it's this one or whether it's a bigger one, where you teach them, as you said, Lisa, to tug. And also, it's important to think back to play here. If your puppy is going after the carpet or after your shoes, the last thing you want to do is play chase or keep away. When you bring out a tug, you're able to invite them to play with you, not make the game them chasing you because you need to get the shoe out of their mouth. So if your puppy picks up a shoe, you pick up a tug, you ask them to drop the shoe, maybe do something else with you, and then you can say, take it. And then when they're puppies, they take it and they just bite at it. And it's, again, the longer one that they can bite into that maybe is cool. And then when they're older, you engage in tug games with them. How does that all sound?
Yeah. Oh, I also want to reiterate something I think you touched on either. I don't think you talked about it today, but last time, is a lot of people don't know that you really shouldn't tug and tug hard with puppies, right? Because they have those baby teeth. So it's important that you do use the tugs, and this is the one you're talking about.
Mm-hmm, yes.
That's why I guess this is a little bit better. They have more kind of chomp space, right? Yep. So yeah, you don't want to tug. We tug a little, you know, it's kind of like a this motion instead of a this motion, you know, but those teeth are precious, and they're small and they're still kind of falling out. So
yeah. Thank you for reiterating that. That is a really important note to keep in mind.
Yeah. So here's a question, and I'll little side note first about ringing doorbells. I don't know about you guys, but if you have your dog or someone comes over to visit, say, and they have the ring on their phone, their ring goes off on their phone. My dogs are at the front door.
Oh.
Our dogs are all accustomed to that notification, if you would. So this was one of the questions from our viewers is, my dog gets so excited when the doorbell rings. I hate locking him up in the laundry room. Not everyone loves dogs like I do. And how can I communicate to him to sit and wait for permission to approach our visitor?
Yeah. Teaching dogs place or how to find you more interesting when there is something new and stimulating for them is definitely a very common one. I would say teaching your dog to do that starts before any visitor comes to your door. And so during the course of your day and your relationship building with your dog, you want to incorporate a number of different tasks that simulate what it would be like for someone coming to your door. And so that means even you going up to your door first and teaching your dog, well, first teaching your dog a solid place is very important. If it doesn't necessarily matter that your dog is looking at you or sitting in a particular area, the point is that your dog has a place where they go and they know that that is their safe area and they wait there until they are released. So first is find a part of the home where you can have a solid place cue, and that means the dog goes there. And part two is work on building up their ability to stay in that place while you go to the door without a doorbell happening. And then reward them for maintaining their place when you return to them. And so that's really, really important. When your timing on your reward is happens when you return to your dog, so long as your dog holds their place. But that doesn't mean your dog was going to hold their place the very first time you walk away. And so breaking it down into increments and understanding how long your dog is able to hold the place before you walk away is something that you want to work on, again, even before you work on bringing someone to your home. And then you get a bit farther away and then you add in other distractions. So assuming that you are teaching your dog, again, back to those 4 stages of learning that we talked about. Mm-hmm. Stage 1 is acquisition of the skill that ultimately we're wanting to work towards is helping a dog understand that when the doorbell rings, they can hold their place. Oh, thank you for the comment. One of our viewers said, love this. So the first step is helping the dog understand how to hold their place. And then the second is working on the fluency step, which is precision and speed. You ask your dog to go to place. How long does it take them to go there? And do they lay down or do they just sit? Step 3 is when you add in distractions, distance, and duration. And so that means you are sending your dog to place. You yourself are stepping away and then stepping back. That's short distance. Then you're increasing your distance and coming back. You are increasing how long they stay on place without you moving. And then you are adding in something like knock on the ground, for example, or have someone else in the house kind of make a knocking sound that's a bit more faint. Have someone else go and open the door while your dog is maintaining their place. So you don't want to change distance, distraction, and duration at the same time. You want to change them each individually and then bring them back together. And after you're able to do that without a person coming to the home, then that's where, if your dog is doing well, then you add in the other person coming. I realize my answer is a bit more long form in terms of how long it takes you to do this, but it doesn't have to be. If you do it in a methodical way and you work on your timing and your positive reinforcement to your dog to teach them the behavior that you want. And after your dog learns to do that, you need to continue maintaining it. So maintain it in between visits, maintain it when people come to the house, and try not to be too, oh, it's okay this one time. Like if you want to teach your dog how to have a place cue, then it's really important that you maintain that. That's one way. There is another way, but I'll pause there to see if there are any questions on that approach.
No, I don't think it's very long at all. I think it kind of makes sense because when you think about the end game as a pet owner, it's like, how am I going to do this? But it's over time and slowly.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another way to achieve this?
There is another way. And it would involve you making yourself more interesting and including more play into your dynamic with your dog. And it still starts before another person comes into the home, but it's a little bit more about you engaging with your dog and you not expecting that you need to be there to open the door for the person. So and all of these two scenarios, I'm assuming that it's about someone coming to your door, but there is also the third scenario where, as you said, your dog hears another doorbell and just generally barks. And so we can talk about 2 and 3. There's similarity there, but for point 2, it has to do with a guest coming over. You have your dog on leash, and again, before someone comes over, you practice with your dog walking forward, making some kind of knocking sounds, making some distractions, simulating maybe what a doorbell sound looks like on your phone, for example.
Yeah.
So on your phone, have a very low sound of a doorbell sound, and then increase the volume of the doorbell sound as you work with your dog on helping them not pay any attention when the doorbell sound is low. And so you can have on your phone the doorbell sound go off, and when it goes off, you bring the tug toy to your dog and you start playing with them, and you're like, yeah, and like take it and tug and play, and then you tell them drop it, or you do something with your, change your body language to communicate the end of play, and then you do the doorbell sound again, and then you give them the toy again, you say take it, and so you associate the doorbell sound with play before it's actually the doorbell sound that's really loud and reverberates through the house.
Okay. Yeah.
And then doing that with your dog, to simulate it for someone coming over to the house, could similarly be if someone's coming to your home and, they ring the doorbell, your dog might end up coming to you and look forward to playing tug. It's Pavlov exactly, right? Like the dinging of the bell, dog started to salivate over food. And so your dog would end up associating that tug is associated with the doorbell, not some unpredictability or some other human that might be more interesting. Like they're looking forward to that game of tug with you because you've made play a valuable part of your bond with your dog.
Yeah. I like that method.
Yeah. And then the same thing can happen, you know, even if there isn't someone at your own door, but there's a car that backfires outside, or, you know, there's a neighbor's doorbell that goes off, or there's a car that honks. You know, there are a lot of things that make our dogs bark. And so in those cases, if there isn't anyone actually at the door for you, I mean, with Max, I just take a breath. I try not to bark over her. I say, thank you. And then I bring her back to me. And sometimes I might go a little closer, and I could have a tug toy, or I could have a treat, or I could like use my recall cue with her. Recall cues are beneficial in lots of situations. And then she comes to me, and then she's gotten faster to the point of fluency. She's gotten faster at coming back to me, even if she does bark, and it's not as long lasting, and it's not as hard for her to quiet down again.
Yeah, because it's consistency. She knows what to do once that cue hits, right?
Yeah, she knows when she hears thank you that she's coming back to me and we're going to have a play together, or, you know, she's going to get some cuddles or something like that.
Right. Very interesting. Thank you for that one. Okay, so that was kind of the doorbell, and we discussed about chewing, and now we're going to talk.
You froze on my end, or I'm not sure if I'm the one who froze.
Oh, I'm frozen. Can you hear me now?
Okay, I think you're back.
Yeah? Okay. All right, so barking is becoming a problem with my neighbors, and I cannot stop him until he wants to stop. How can I train him to stop when I tell him to? I think this is a very common one as well.
Sorry, so can you say again, the dog is barking at the neighbors from inside the house or outside the house?
Let's see, barking is becoming a problem with my neighbors, and I cannot stop. It doesn't really say. So I would say maybe inside the house, because that would be a little bit more a nuisance.
Okay, yeah, I guess so. Outside the house, you might be able to walk away. Well, I guess I started kind of answering this in my last response of how I have a different word with Maggie. Like I don't tell her stop or quiet, or I don't repeat her name over and over again, because all of those things are effectively me barking over her and don't give her an indication of what behavior I actually want her to do. And so the thank you was actually an idea from one of my good friends, and the reason I even became a trainer. Her name is Victoria, and her account is Click Treat Dog Training. And she said that whenever she taught her dogs that, you know, if the doorbell goes off or they start barking, she says, thank you. And that is how she built the cue of them coming to her. So it's like, yeah, thank you for checking. Like, you know,
Yeah.
There's sometimes when the dogs are barking at things that they should be, and sniffing at things they should be. So it's not always like a bad thing. They're just expressing themselves. And I do know someone actually whose dog helped stop her catalytic converter from being stolen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, building up more of a, again, the bond between you and your dog when they bark, and try to understand why they're barking. Now, if it's becoming a problem with your neighbors, then step one, management tools. If your dog has access to windows or doors or things like that where they can see outside, then my first question to you is how can you limit their ability to see outside and get overstimulated and feel the need to defend? There's actually a dog in our neighborhood that looks like a little Maltipoo, and he has access to the front fully glass like greenhouse area of their home, and every single time we cross the street, no matter cross by that house, and it's like we kind of have to go that way, he always barks. And I just always like, am I going to give them a note today to let them know that they really should not give their dog access to that part of the house? So yeah, my first question to you is, are you managing the situation? You can't change the behavior if the behavior can reinforce itself.
I see.
Then the second thing is understand why you cannot stop your dog until he wants to stop. What is it that makes him want to stop? Is it that he is afraid of, he's sensing a threat and it's fear barking? Is it aggression barking? Is there, what kind of barking is he experiencing, and what is it that makes him stop barking? Well, again, from what we were talking about with the doorbell ringing, apply it to other stimuli that are outside of the house and help him develop the association between sounds outside and you being the more interesting thing, and that he doesn't need to continue barking. And so do that by creating a cue like thank you or something else, or like a different word that also for you will make you feel like it's a fun environment and not elevating your own stress levels. And then 2, be prepared with something that helps you to bond and engage. Something as simple as just petting your dog when they come to you. You're not rewarding them for barking. You're rewarding them for coming to you, so long as they have to come away and towards you to, a certain extent. They are associative learners. There are many things with humans that we are associative learners as well, but we have the ability to process beyond that. And so the idea of your dog not stopping until he wants to, the 2 things that I'm seeing there are 1, the dog is over threshold, and 2, the dog does not know what behavior you actually want it to do. And so that is where, building up the connection with your dog so they know when to come to you, how to disengage, and what enjoyment they get from coming to you, rather than continuing with that fear or excitement bark or aggression bark. You can do it with play. Like we said in our very first session, dog school class together, play is a very important part. And so having a combination of tug and, different tricks and things that you do together is a helpful way of overcoming the second problem, which is that, your dog doesn't know what behavior they want to do. But managing that first problem of them going over threshold is important with limiting their access to the areas that make them bark.
So I'm kind of seeing a common theme here, in the training is almost like you get the connection with the dog, you connect with the dog, tell them what you want, and then follow through. And it's almost like, I guess you could kind of compare it to distracting a baby again, right? Go back to the human example, is redirection. Mm-hmm. So if your baby's running towards the stairs, redirect this way because we don't want to go that way, right? Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, exactly.
So creating that that one word that you can associate with that problem, right? Like your thank you. I made a specific note for that. And I think what I'm going to do is take some of these questions and share them with our whole audience, right? And see if I could, summarize kind of what we talk about, and we'll post this for some of our audiences.
Yeah, that would be great. And if anyone who's on has questions that they'd like to ask us live, are also happy to answer those. But I think you had said that you had some other questions as well. So we have plenty. There's always more to learn with regarding our dogs.
Right. They have a question from me, but honestly, I feel like you've kind of touched on a lot of the answers as well. So one of the things that happens with me when I talk about our products is that our potential customers will say, well, my dog's just going to chew that up. They're just going to take that over there and just destroy it. So generally my answer to them is, if they're chronic chewers, then you communicate to them and not let them chew it. So you can use your tug toys as rewards, and you don't always have to reward with treats. And it kind of opens their eyes to just different ways, that you can use tug toys in general, and any toy that they have an obsession with. I don't think it's anything specific. It's what your dog wants, right? And what they're most excited about. Mm-hmm. So My question to you is, can you share with us like a few more examples on how you could use a toy or that obsessive product that your dog loves in their daily routines? And I think you kind of touched a little bit on it, with the placing and, redirection, but maybe there's some sort of common scenario that you see a lot with your customers that you often suggest.
Yeah, so the question is how to use different toys as part of their everyday routine.
Yes, rather than like treats all day with training.
Yeah, we had actually put up a post a few days ago outlining the motivations of dogs and motivations of humans. And I think the caption I had written something like, what would motivate you to work a 70-hour work week? And, what might motivate you, Lisa, is different than what would motivate me, different than what would motivate our viewers. But there are some things that we might have as overlap. It just, maybe our priorities vary. The same is true for dogs. And that's where positive reinforcement as a methodology of training depends on understanding what motivates your dogs to work for you, because relationship building is hard work. Ask any married couple or anyone that is trying to build a relationship and is 1 to 6 months to a year in. It's very different levels of work in month 1 versus 6 versus 1 year versus 6 years. We are at the 6-year mark.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for joining the Golden Doodle. So the things that we do in our relationships to build on a daily basis, also we can relate to how we build relationships with our dogs on a daily basis and the ways we can use tools for that. So when it comes to the toys that are available to us, you want to think about what motivates your dog, right? So I had shared with you actually, Lisa, about how with Maggie, she went from when she was a puppy, a very aggressive chewer, to then as she got older, and so I helped her develop the behavior of like take it, drop it, right? She's not an aggressive chewer anymore. In terms of tug, she'll kind of play with it a little bit, but now she more prefers like tennis balls at only certain times of day when she's running back and forth in the evening and trying to get her exercise out on our lawn. But then, other times she will come and like we'll play tug in the afternoon together. Or like I will move it on the ground to kind of make something fun and then she paws at it, right? So there are a lot of different ways to use different toys and understand what motivates your dog. It's not a blanket, yes, my dog loves this, no, my dog hates this. So right there's an example that with the tug toy, you don't only need to tug with your dog. You can give your dog some mental stimulation and give yourself some fun as well by just, sitting on the ground, have that longer tug, which you had and the one that you're going to turn into a Frisbee as well at some point, right?
Yes.
Have that just kind of like a snake on the ground. And this is assuming that, your dog is not going to pounce on it and hurt you. And also any of this advice, please take it through the lens of filtering what your dog's capacities to be and how to keep yourself safe. With any kind of training advice, always take it through the lens of how to keep yourself safe. So you can use it on the ground as like, a little snake that the dog can kind of pat at, and then you can say, okay, take it. And in Maggie's case, she'll take it for a moment, but then she'll drop it. And she more prefers being able to pounce on the tug toy that's, sliding along the ground. And that's a really good way for her to get energy out, especially if air quality is bad like it is today in California, or if it's raining or something like that. You can also incorporate, the snuffle bags and snuffle balls into the mix. But in both of these cases, the thing that we had also said last week is don't assume your dog knows how to use it right off the bat.
Yes.
And be creative in how you use it. So, I guess I'm not giving necessarily very prime examples of the different ways to include it, aside from like with Maggie making it like a snake on the ground and such. But yeah, are there other examples you're hoping I would share?
Those are perfect examples of where you could use these products, not just for their intention. And that kind of leads me right into what we're going to dive into next week is exactly how to use the snuffle bag. There's different cases. We talked about some dogs want to destroy. So we're going to teach you how to introduce the bag to you and teach your dog how to use it. So we don't want them to chew, and we're going to teach you how to teach your dog. And so we're going to dive a little bit more into that next week, specifically with our products. So I think the last thing I was going to ask you, is there anything that you can kind of homework for our viewers and with Nosework? So let's start working on Nosework, since we're going to be doing snuffling next week, maybe with just some common things that they have at home.
Yeah. So a great way to get your dog used to using their nose is like the tin game, where you have a muffin tin,
Oh,
put
yeah.
some treats into it, and cover some of them with a tennis ball. And so, but for this, again, you don't want to just assume that your dog knows how to use it. And so you also want to understand, is your dog fearful or not? Because a fearful dog might get a bit put off by the sound of the tin moving. And that's not a concern with like the felt snuffle bags, because if they move, it's not going to make a sound. But just be aware of, if your dog is such that they get concerned by, sudden sounds or weird sounds, you might want to be there and hold the tin for them, but also help them understand, okay, like if this ball is moved a little bit, you see the sniff under and you see the treats there. That's a great way to use a tool and get yourself used to using something that has treats in it. But it's not going to be like as long lasting once a dog figures it out, because they'll just pick up the ball, put it to the side, and take the treats. So that's why there are a variety of different kinds of methods of difficulty, depending on your dog's inclination to use their sense of smell. Another fun one that I like to use, that again goes to your bond with your dog, is put a treat in both hands. You can put the hands behind your back, and then you go to your dog, and it's really important to make it a clear distinction of going smell, smell, which one? And then have your dog might sniff here, but then you can just say like paw. And so then the dog will paw one hand, you open it up, and they'll take the treat that's there. Now there's still one here, right? So, but the thing is, we want to set the dog up for success. So you do it again, smell, which one? And have them paw. And so if they go again to this one, okay, great. But then on the next one, maybe you don't have a treat here. And so on the next one, as they're starting to develop, right, the stage one acquisition of the skill is, okay, if I paw at the hand that has a treat, then that's the hand that I get that opens up and I get a treat. But they're not always, like, we want to teach them that the hand will not always have it, and they want to pick the one that does. So if you put your hands out, and let's say your dog has developed a connection to be like, oh, this is the hand that always has a treat. Well, that time you don't have one. And you ask them again, which one? And then they'll have to pick this one. So then they start to build a connection. So like in this next round, maybe again, you just have the treat here. Smell. If they paw here, it opens, there's nothing there. You say again, which one? And then they'll go here. And so that's a really fun way of teaching your dog to use their sense of smell and then be able to pick the one that has it. It's a great party trick. You can involve in other friends, and we've gotten to the point with Maggie that we've had 8 hands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was thinking as you were saying it, yeah, you could set up like a whole magic show.
The hardest part is having everyone like present their hand equally to help the dog know where to go.
Yeah.
And you can also do another thing, like you can, take their favorite toy. So if you have a tug, and this is quite wide, but if you have a toy or a tug, put a treat under that toy. But at first have a treat next to the toy, right? So then they know that they're coming close and there's one here. But then have them continue to smell and put like a really, really stinky good one underneath, but not so far underneath that they can't see it or smell it. But, depending on other certain dogs' sense of smell, but put it under so they develop the understanding they have to like push it out of the way to get the treat that they want. So you can use the toys that you already have at home, even if they're not technically for scent work, and
Right.
put the treat under that and have them learn to use their nose to move the toy out of the way and then get the treat from under it.
So then you can technically like set treats around the house and then have them go search around for it.
Yeah, having a little sniffari in the house is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I
Um,
do.
and I mean, just generally teaching a release cue is a really good one. Like, go get it. So, for example, in the next session when we talk about snuffle mats, we will talk about how to get your dog used to knowing to use their sense of smell to get it rather than biting at the material. But you also don't want them jumping all over you and such, and you don't want to teach dogs to just bite and pick up anything that's on the ground. And so building up a good go get it or a release cue is really helpful. And so you can do that in the house. For example, let's say you're working on place. Then when you want to release your dog, you could say, okay, and then toss some treats on the ground and say, go get it. And then you could bring them back to you even and do some, sniff work with them, right? At your side, have to do again like a smell, which one? And then so you can do that combination, release them with treats out away from you, bring them back to you for a bit of play, which allows them to use their nose as well as get in a few steps.
You do that a couple times and then they're going to expect that whole series of play. They're going to know.
Yeah. And they're going to feel more of a connection to you and better able to, respond to your requests rather than continue on with what they're looking to do. I see it all the time where just a little bit of that connection with them helps develop an association between, what you're asking them to do and them being able to follow through with it.
Well, it makes total sense. So I think we're right around time. So I thank you so much for doing this with us, Andrea. It's been very, very helpful. I'm very excited about this class too. So we're going to end up posting this as well so people can view it. And just to reiterate a little bit, next week, do you think we'll want to try for Wednesday again? It seemed to be good for me.
Yeah, next Wednesday sounds great.
Wednesday, we'll do week 3, and then we'll be getting more into how to use the snuffle bags. And we have 2 sizes. This is our large snuffle bag here. And all of our bags cinch into a little travel little size. And here's my small one. So we do have everything is 20% off while we are in school. And you could use the code FreeDogSchool on our website to activate that. So thanks again for coming, all of our fans who popped in, and Andrea, thank you. And we will see everyone then next week for week 3. And if you guys have any questions, you can DM either Andrea or me. And we also have a little survey if you like to take to get updated and be involved in our newsletters.
That all sounds great. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm glad to be part of this class series with you. You're a great co-teacher.
Thank you. You have a good night, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
All right. See you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.